Oh my, I have 2 rifles and 3 bolts. What's going on here? Well, up here I have a Yugoslavian Mauser and its bolt, and then a Turkish Mauser and its Turkish bolt, and then I borrowed a Kar98K Mauser from a friend. This one is Parkerized because it was captured by the Russians. So you can see what those are right here. What I'd like to talk about today is the reasons how the Yugoslavian Mauser bolt and chamber is just a little bit different than other 98 pattern Mausers. As a quick disclaimer, I may sometimes say something like other Mausers, but in this video I am only talking about the differences between Yugoslavian and Serbian Mausers, like the top one up here, and 98 pattern Mausers like this Turkish M38, Kar98s and Kar98Ks, and some others. So let's get into it. The most noticeable difference between a Yugoslavian Mauser bolt and other Mauser bolts is the length. So you can see I have a little post-it note right here, and that is there for a reason. These 2 bolt handles are lined up, and they're lined up in the back. But as you can see, the Yugoslavian Mauser bolt face is just a little bit receded from the Turkish Mauser bolt. The interesting thing is this length difference is not in the bolt head, it's actually in this area right here. So if you look at these 2 surfaces right here and right here, they're about equally lined up. But you can see that they are not equally lined up here to here. There is actually a difference there. That's not a camera trick. One thing that this means is that these bolts are not interchangeable. So this is the Turkish Mauser bolt, and this is the Yugoslavian Mauser. So it will look like it will fit in, but as you can see, it's not going any further forward and it's not going down. This is because even if the front bolt lugs could interact with their channel up here, which they can't, we'll talk about that in a little bit, it would not be able to interact right here. This is the same if we put the Yugoslavian Mauser bolt into the Turkish Mauser. So just in the same way, it's not going to line up, the bolt is not going to lock, and that is because the lugs are hitting the channel because they're not supposed to go there. All right, let me take these out real quick. And just to show you that they are the same, we're going to put this Kar98K bolt into this Turkish Mauser. And it's going to be a little bit stiff because both this bolt is Parkerized and because it's not meant for this particular rifle. But that should be safe to operate like this, assuming the headspace is correct. Aside from the turn down bolt handle, this bolt and this bolt should be basically identical. Now, another issue that this presents is parts interchangeability. So I'm going to pull the rear parts out of the Turkish Mauser and out of the German Mauser. And as you can see, this German Kar98K bolt can go right into this Turkish Mauser. And I'm not going to try it, but theoretically this should work. However, with the Yugoslavian Mauser, it won't be quite the same. So if I understand correctly, this should screw in just fine. But the issues will come if you try to fire this. Because the firing pin and the firing pin spring are just a little bit longer, after you fire, the bolt will lock up and you will have to pull the cocking piece back manually before you can open the bolt. This is actually a problem that I had. Unbeknownst to me, when I bought this Yugoslavian Mauser, somebody had put a Kar98K or Kar98 pattern firing pin and firing pin spring in, so every time I fired it, the bolt would lock up and I would have to pull the cocking piece back manually. It was a real hassle until I figured out what the problem was. Now, well, obviously the bolt body, and like we just talked about, the striker and spring won't be interchangeable. The cocking piece and the bolt shroud and some of those other pieces should actually be interchangeable, like the safety. So there are some parts that are interchangeable, although you will probably have better luck or better fitment with parts from the same country. Now, let's talk about another really interesting difference between Yugoslavian Mausers and other styles of Mausers, and that is the way that the chamber face is shaped. Now, I can't show you this on the tabletop, so I'll have to get you some other pictures. But the difference is sort of like this. Standard Mausers have a perfectly round face, and the bolt and extractor go right up against the face. Right here, that is going to line up perfectly with the face of the chamber like this. The Yugo chambers are just a little bit different. They actually have a cutout for the extractor to go, and they interact with the face by almost like entering into it and creating a stronger gas seal than other 98 pattern Mausers have. This is one of the reasons why I'm really happy with my Yugo Mauser, and why I choose to continue using it for my 8mm Mauser reviews. It should be better at handling gas than other Mausers, and since I'm using some sketchier ammos, I think that's a good call. Basically, it envelops the case entirely, so that there should be no exposed case should there be a case rupture. Now, in general, 98 pattern Mausers are known for handling gas very well, but these, I believe, push it over the top. Now, you can't really change the face of the chamber without also changing the face of the bolt, so let's talk about our difference there, too. On the right, you have our Yugoslavian Mauser, and on the left, you have our Turkish Mauser. And if I turn them like this, you should be able to notice that there is a little nub that is on the Turkish Mauser that is not on the Yugoslavian Mauser. This is because when the Yugoslavian Mauser goes forward into the chamber, everything goes up against the face of the chamber, and then the extractor goes into it. When it locks into place, the extractor is basically inside of the face of the chamber in a way. And that is what creates that extra strong gas seal. Really, the only opening is in the bottom, but that is just the rim. While still handling gas really well, other patterns of Mauser are just a little bit different. It has this little nub right here, and you'll notice that that protrudes about the same distance as the extractor. So that goes up against the bolt face, and the extractor goes up against the bolt face. But there's still some unsupported material right here that could lead to some gas leakage, and even more on the bottom. So I'm not really sure exactly why the Yugoslavian Mauser bolts are shorter, but I do know why they did this thing with recessing the bolt a little bit, and that is to make a stronger gas seal in the situation of a case rupture. So I think that this is a really interesting design. Maybe you do or maybe you don't. Either way, leave a comment down below. I really appreciate that. But I compared Yugoslavian Mauser bolts to other Mauser bolts, and I lived on.
Which proves it's hard to get the best of a man named John.
John.